Hello, welcome. This is the sketch I will be doing in this video. It's going to be in real time, so if you'd like to sketch with me, just grab a few supplies, some watercolor paper, a pencil, some pens, your watercolor paints, and brushes, and we could do this together. Here's the reference photo, and if any of you have watched my other previous videos, you know I'm a sucker for string lights. Anytime I see string lights, and it's a really nice image, I want to sketch it. And I loved this backyard. This is a bungalow in Key West, Florida. So I just love the chairs and the little chair, the little love seat with the pillows. It's just so inviting. So I thought this would be great to sketch. So let's get started. I'm using a 6 by about 8-inch square piece of paper. I have a booklet of 9 by 12, and I like to cut those in half. So I'll have two pieces that I could do these sketches on, and then I cut a little bit off the edge. So this is about a 6 by 8-inch, I believe. And I'm just doing the outline of the building, of the little bungalow, and I'm going to put in the window. And then I can kind of adjust everything from there. Put the little love seat in. And then I end up putting the chairs in, but I didn't like the way they were. So instead of erasing and taking up your time, I erased those chairs, repositioned that love seat, and now I'm going to resketch those chairs in again. And I put in a little bit of I put the little stone patio in as well. But those chairs are fascinating. They're just really, they were really fun to sketch. Not the first time, but now they're going to be a little bit better. A little tricky. So this is definitely one that I didn't feel comfortable going in straight with the ink. And you can see the top of that chair is hitting the side of the corner actually of the building. I'm a little bit into the building, but that's okay. I always say that when I make mistakes or I'm off. I always go, that's okay. We're keeping it loose. It's my excuse. And I got one chair is a little bit bigger than the other, but I think when I start doing the pen, they start working out. So there's a fire pit and there is a table. I did not want to do both. I thought it was too much. One was in front of the other, and so I'm just doing the little table with the little plant on top, and I think that worked out good. So now that I've got some of the main components in there, now I'm going to start with the ink, and I am using a dip pen with some Noodler's waterproof ink because we're going to be doing watercolor over this. So I do love my dip pen. It's really such a beautiful, fine, crisp line. And I don't like to use it for a lot of plants like my palm trees because I can't get the loose, quick strokes that I need. But something like this with a lot of straight edges, I love the dip pen for. And you don't have to use a dip pen. There are some wonderful pens. Micron and Faber-Castell are two other great choices. And I would use a 005, 01, or 02 for this initial sketch. But that's me. You might like to go with a thicker line. I like to start with the thinner lines because then I can go in with bolder lines in the end to define things. So there's a lot of layers to this roof line. I'm just kind of looking at it and counting how many lines are in there. This is the underneath part of the roof. And there I'm counting them. And then this is where the roof line attaches, or the overhang attaches to the house. So look at that. There's a lot of lines there. And then on this side we've got the downspout drain pipe. So I just put a little bit of the side wall there. And we put the gutter in. And it's kind of hidden behind the bush there. And that bottom of that goes right below that little love seat. So we'll put that bottom part of the building with the siding, and then we've got the cement below that. But we'll go ahead and put that love seat in. It's got a nice little throw hanging over with some nice folds. And 3 little pillows. You know how pretty that has to look at night with all those lights on sitting out there? But that's a great place to hang out. And that blanket, that little throw, has stripes in it. But when we get to the painting portion of it, I didn't do the stripes. I did more of a soft blue color. And that's the nice thing about when you can adjust it any way you want, like leaving the fire pit out and changing colors up and making it your own. So now we're going to put the chairs in. And those front legs are a little bit shorter because they're further back. Or not shorter. Well, yeah, shorter. Shorter because they're further back. And of course I made them the same size, same length. Bring it down. There we go. A little bit. And we're just going to do the outline of the chairs. And then we're going to do the watercolor, and then we'll finish off the backrest and the seat of the chair when we do our finishing detail with the ink. I made that table a little bit bigger just because I didn't have the fire pit, so I wanted to take up a little more space. And that was a really bad oval. A little better. So we got little, 4 little bushes back there. 2 are kind of behind the love seat. Oh, and the lantern. It's got a little candle in there. And then those bushes. So just loose leaves, just little squiggles. That one's kind of tucked away behind the chair, behind the love seat. It's a nice image. I think it's, pretty straightforward. It's just the only thing that seems a little difficult there that can be those chairs. But it's a good challenge. And then we'll pop in that bush on the side before we put on in the side of that with the window there. And on the left side there's a window and there's a tree in front of it. I didn't do the tree. I just put the siding with the window, or the little side of the bungalow. And then the top part of that peak, it has some wood shingles, and then below that, the top of the window, it's just siding. So I'm just going to do loose little, not even full squares, just kind of a loose shingle looking, keep it loose. Make it interesting. And then the siding. Now I'm trying to put a beginning and an end dot of where I want that string light to go, because at least if I have those dots, I can kind of just connect them and know where I want to stop and start. And then we've got one more string light in front of that one. And I put 3 dots. And there's 2 lights in front. So that's simple. Just put those little mechanisms, and then a little wire hanging down, and then the bulb. Well, and then the housing for the bulb. There you go. This is where a nice fine tip pen comes in, because you want those bulbs really nice and fine, as well as the siding on the house as well. You want that just real subtle. And if you are ever going to, or if you're using your dip pen along with me now, I always have a tough time waiting for that ink to dry, and I start to erase my pencil marks and I smudge. So just a warning, if you're going to be using a dip pen with ink, you might end up with a heavier puddle of ink in one area, not realizing it, and it takes a little while to dry. Whereas that's why the microns are really nice pens, because they dry really quickly. And also you don't want to run your hand through the ink as well, because you can smudge it that way. So extended that roof a little bit to add that back of the bungalow. And when I do my sketches, I don't go all the way to the end of the paper. I kind of just phase out my subject, such as the string lights or a roof line. And I forgot to put the center of that window in. Another great pen to use is the Lamy Safari. I like that one because I can refill the ink, because you never know when the other ones are going to go out. You can't tell. and I refill that with an ink cartridge that I bought separately, and I use the Noodler's ink in that pen. That's called the Lamy Safari, and it's like the dip pen, but the ink is a cartridge, so you don't have to dip it. But it's like the calligraphy, which is fun. It's nice to have different tools to play around with, so you're never bored. And just putting all the greenery behind. Not really following what it's doing back there, just making up my own. And there were 2 flower pots on the right side, the corner by the lantern. I left those out because they were kind of hidden behind the chair. And there was another pot that was on the left side above the left chair, and I left that one out too because it was too busy. So we're gonna get started with the watercolor, and I'm going to wet that, make sure that's all, I made sure that was all dry. And I'm dropping some water on top, and then I'm going to mix up my green, which was a phthalo light green, cadmium yellow medium, and a little bit of sap green. Start off with the lighter green, and then we'll drop in some darker green after that. Get those bushes in. And there's like a little row of mulch back there, but I didn't put it in. I just did it. I just made it all grass. And I've got a little Payne's Gray, very, very light, with a flat number 6 brush to do some shadowing. And I put a little bit of a cobalt blue into that for the windows. I normally would go in with just straight Payne's Gray for windows, but I ended up doing it a little bit more blue this time. And then I added, when we get to it, I did add Payne's Gray on top, but then I ended up changing it up. So I'll explain that when we get to it, but I didn't like the way the windows were looking. I'm always trying something different with the windows. And I like the way they turned out in the end. I didn't like it originally, but after I had stopped filming, you'll see the way they turned out, and I didn't care for them. So, but the finished image I share with you, I'll go over it. But so I'm using some burnt umber, and I'm gonna just do the outline of the chair, because we're going to use a pen to put the backrest and the base of the chair in with the pen. So I've taken the brown from the chairs, and I mixed a little bit of white to give me a nice light beige for the pillows, or that one pillow is a little bit darker than the rest. But you can make the pillows any color you want. I had put a little more water on my brush to lighten that one pillow. And this one I made blue, just a really light blue, like the blue in the windows. So I picked up my rigger brush, which is just a really long, this one's really long. And it just gives you a little bit, doesn't give you the control. So I want to get those, even though those pavers are pretty uniformed, the same shape, I wanted mine a little bit more messy and loose. So I got the rigger brush out to just so I don't have much control over where I put that same beige that I used in the pillow in the back. So I got my flat brush out again to do some shadows, and I've got a little bit of Payne's Gray watered down, and I'm going to put that wherever I see a little shadowing underneath the roof, and then into the back there where I started. So this was where I added the Payne's Gray to the window to just try something different. I wanted to see like doing like a type of glare in the window, but I didn't care for that, so I'll fix that later. But I mixed a little bit more Payne's Gray, watered down, and it was a little dark, so if you're ever finding your color's a little dark and it's still wet, just have a little paper towel handy and just blot it right off to soften it. As long as it's still wet. And I've been, I've taken where it's dried, and I've taken a wet brush, wet it down, and blotted it off as well. There's a little light there on the side that I popped in. I don't think I did that on camera, but there's a little overhead light by a door that's probably there that I popped in. And I'll put a little bit darker green now. I added just some water to some sap green, just to dilute it a little bit, and I'm just going to put in some depth into all that foliage. using that same beige on the palette, I put that in the pot, and then I'm doing a little bit of a deeper at the base of it with a little extra burnt umber. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of green and put in the little plant. This is a 0/2, really fine tip brush for those details. And now we're ready to use the pen, and we're going to put in those, the backrest and the seat of that chair. And I've got a 0.005 micron. It's coming together nicely. Try not to go through the backrest of the chair with my lines. And on the backrest we can go through everything. My eye goes directly to those windows. Not good. Change that up. So I've got the 0.3 micron. I'm going to do some bolder line work. So you don't want all of your lines to being the same thickness. You want some thin, some thick. And that's what makes it interesting. So I always like to do some bolder lines underneath the roof line and throughout the roof. Just gives it a little dimension. So I need to go back in. I forgot to put shadowing underneath the chairs and the table and the little love seat. So I've got a flat brush again, and a little bit of Payne's Gray, not very dark, just watered down, very subtle. I don't see much shading in the image itself, but must have been a cloudy day, but I wanted to put a little bit of shadow just so they don't look like they're floating. So going back to the pen and just putting in the, darkening that edge of the table. And I got out a little bit of the white gouache, which is a very opaque white paint. And I'm going to go ahead and put in, kind of whiten up those light bulbs from any shadowing that I might have put through them. I want to brighten them up. Can't do this with regular white watercolor paint because it's too translucent, but this opaque white gouache is really great for any kind of white highlights you want to do in any type of painting. And then I grabbed the 00. Once that was dry, I grabbed the 005 again and just put just like a little line, make it look like that interior of the light bulb. And then I got out a Tombow. That is the N89. And I'm just going to do just a little, kind of a little edge on that pillow. So I'm grabbing a number 10 round brush, adding a lot of water to the leftover paint on my palette, and I'm picking the blue and the green, and I'll just add a lot of water to that and then just do some splatters. I love when those dry because it just is such a beautiful detail on the paper. Just so pretty. So here is my finished sketch. And you could see I took a wet brush to the windows and I kind of just lightly blended that gray back into the blue, and that's so much better. And then I took a little bit of a darker brown and I went into between the pavers, and then also a little bit more brown, a darker brown in between the pavers. And then I add a little bit more blue to the throw. But other than that, yeah, that's it. Um, it turned out really nice. I thought this was a nice one that you can sketch with me if you wanted to. It's very simple, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I want to thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and leave them in the comment section. And if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them as well. So have a wonderful day, and I will be posting another video soon. Bye for now.